When most people think of Greece, they think of ancient history, whitewashed buildings, and clear blue water. It's one of the most visited countries in Europe, and it's easy to see why. But over the last few years, a very different image has been unfolding online, one that has shocked the Greek public in a way that very few things have before. One example comes from November 2023 in Keratsini, a working-class district just outside Piraeus in Athens. In the early hours of November 11th, police made their way to a house on Pavlofisa Street in Keratsini, where a 42-year-old man known online as Lefteris had been running a YouTube channel. He had 22,700 subscribers and streamed almost exclusively after midnight. His real name was Eleftherios K. He wasn't unknown to police. In fact, a woman who'd seen what was happening on his channel had been reporting him since late 2021, 2 full years before his arrest, going to multiple police stations to report what she'd witnessed on his live streams. She'd also reported him separately for suspected paedophilia, but every single time she went, she was turned away. When she kept pushing, members of his circle came to her home, smashed her car, and broke her shop window. She even reported that too, but nothing happened. For 2 years, Lefteris kept streaming, and thousands of subscribers kept watching and paying to see what he did inside that house. His 3 victims were all young adults with intellectual disabilities from the Nicaea area of Athens, a 21-year-old woman, a 25-year-old man, and a third unknown man. He kept them in the house, gave them a daily meal and a small allowance, and in exchange they appeared on his streams. He targeted people who were already struggling, people who had nothing, and in his mind, he was doing them a favor. In his own words, he was turning them into superstars within his online community. He streamed almost every day for 2 to 3 hours at a time. Subscribers would tune in and send donations in real time, typing requests in the comments, and paying subscribers could decide what happened next. And the list was endless. Beatings with boxing gloves, taser attacks, shaving of hair and eyebrows, being covered in yogurt, and even sexual acts, both individual and between the victims themselves. In one session alone, in a single night, donations reached €1,000. In total, there were 554 videos on his channel. But the YouTube channel was only part of it. During his public live streams, Lefteris announced to his audience what was coming next, posting invitations in the comments and directing paying viewers to a private Discord channel. Those who subscribed and paid were given access to exclusive content, specifically the sexual abuse of the 21-year-old woman, streamed live via his mobile phone from a separate room, while the public YouTube stream continued running in the background. But worst of all, Lefteris wasn't the only one doing this. There was a second person, referred to in Greek media only as the boss, who appears to have been the one who came up with the idea in the first place. The two had worked together initially, before splitting off to run their own separate channels. But the boss was much more violent. He invited vulnerable people to his apartment and then beat them on camera while thousands watched. Lefteris was eventually arrested, but bizarrely it wasn't because of the years of complaints from the woman who'd been turned away by police over and over again. It was a trip from another streamer, someone doing the exact same thing, who just wanted exclusive access to the content. Whether this was the boss himself is unclear. Officers from the Racist Violence Unit of the Attica Security Directorate began monitoring his channel, and at 20 minutes to 4 on the morning of November 11th, 2023, while he had a live sexual act between 2 of his victims on air, they moved in. He was arrested mid-stream. After Lefteris was arrested, both the 21-year-old woman and the 25-year-old man went straight back to the boss's home and carried on appearing in his streams. In one of the most disturbing moments during his streams, one of the victims said live on stream that he wanted to leave. He was beaten in front of thousands of people for saying it. When Lefteris appeared in court, he denied everything. He said the victims weren't disabled and that everything was consensual. He was remanded in custody on charges of bodily harm, insult, pimping committed with racist characteristics, and illegal weapons possession. But the story didn't end with his arrest. In February 2024, 3 months later, A second YouTuber was arrested in Attica for doing the exact same thing. He went by the name Hayate and had been running his own live abuse channel since January 2023, with victims described as vulnerable individuals with disabilities. He was charged with human trafficking and physical harm. It's unclear whether this was the boss himself or someone else entirely. As for Lefteris, I wasn't able to find any confirmation of a final sentence, so his trial may still be ongoing. As for the boss, the man who reportedly started all of this, his identity remains unknown. Kolonos is a working-class district in West Athens, where everyone knows everyone, and life is pretty ordinary. But in October 2022, one name in that community was about to become known across the entire country. Ilias Michos was 53 years old and had been running a mini-market in Kolonos for years. He was a member of the ruling New Democracy Party, photographed at events alongside politicians, with those pictures posted proudly on his social media. He attended church regularly and was photographed with local priests and clergy. He also donated cleaning supplies to the Kolonos police station and had his photo taken with the station commander. His wife was also an elected Athens city councillor. To everyone around him, Ilias Michos was a good-hearted townsman. But he wasn't. In the same neighbourhood lived a family of 8 children. The father was unemployed, so the family survived on child benefits and a small monthly contribution from the grandmother, while the mother did whatever work she could find, including odd jobs at Michos's mini-market. At some point, she started bringing her daughter along to help, who was around 12 years old at the time. It was there that Michos changed. He began abusing her at the shop. He threatened her, beat her, and filmed the abuse. Days turned to weeks, then months. And throughout all of this, the mother had no idea what he was doing to her daughter. And as time went on, Michos began thinking about what else he could do with the child and how he could profit from those recordings. From May 2022 onwards, while the abuse was still ongoing, he began building a network around her. He created 51 separate fake profiles on a Greek anonymous dating and chat app called Blind Chat, posing as a 16-year-old girl looking for paid meetings. He also posted on Viber, Telegram, and on online escort listing sites. Each profile claimed she was older than she was, and each one directed interested men to make contact with the profile operator, which was Michos himself, arranging the logistics, setting the price, and deciding who got access. The price for each meeting was between 50 and 70 euros, and most meetups took place in cars near Sepolia metro station, 300 meters from his shop. On other occasions, he took her to a 2-story building on Cassandra Street in central Athens, a place he used specifically for this purpose, where he handed her over to men and collected the money afterwards. In total, 213 men responded to his ads. Police later estimated that between 70 and 100 of them actually went through with it and abused her, including at least one woman. Among those eventually arrested as clients was a 36-year-old hospital administrator at Metaxas Hospital, who was suspended immediately by the health minister. Another was Ioannis Sofianidis, a 42-year-old father of 3 daughters, one of them the same age as the victim. He told investigators he thought the girl was 17 and claimed he had paid the money directly to her rather than to Michos, but this was never the case. When the mother found out what had been happening to her daughter, she went straight to the Kolonos police station, but they refused to accept her complaint. She came back the next day and was sent to Central Police Headquarters instead. What she didn't know was that Michos had a contact inside that station, feeding him information about her complaint and the investigation being conducted against him. The Kolonos station had for years been considered notorious by Hellenic Police Internal Affairs, previously implicated in a protection racket that covered hundreds of brothels and illegal gambling dens across central Athens. At the same time, Michos' wife approached the girl's grandmother directly and offered her 10,000 euros to stay quiet and make the whole thing disappear. But the grandmother refused. The mother didn't give up. She went to Central Police Headquarters as they'd told her to, and this time her complaint was taken seriously. The Subdirectorate for the Protection of Minors of the Attica Security Directorate took over the case and spent 40 days building it, going through digital traces, messages, financial transactions, and identifying individuals who'd responded to Michos's profiles before moving in. On the 7th of October 2022, officers arrested Ilias Michos. When they searched his home, they found 2 pistols, 572 rounds of ammunition, 21 knives, a bayonet, 2 laptops, and a hard drive. A prosecutor ordered his name and photograph to be released to the public in the hope that more potential victims would come forward, and when they were, Greece found out who Ilias Michos was, and the reaction was immediate. Greek Twitter and online forums exploded, with users going through every piece of publicly available information connected to the case, cross-referencing screenshots, digital traces and contact details, trying to identify the anonymous men who had responded to his ads. Protesters had also gathered in Sepolia and marched to his mini-market on the main street of Kolonos, throwing paint and writing slogans across the front of the building. The trial of Ilias Michos and 25 other defendants opened at the Mixed Jury Court of Athens and was held behind closed doors. What came out of those doors in March 2024 shocked Greece almost as much as the case itself. The prosecutor recommended that Michos be acquitted of the sexual abuse charges. Despite his confession, despite the recordings and the 1,000-page case file, the prosecutor argued there was insufficient evidence to prove the legal definition of sexual assault had been met, and recommended he be cleared of pimping too. At the same time, the same prosecutor recommended the girl's mother be convicted. Outside the court, protesters gathered, where water bottles and stones were thrown at the defendants as they arrived, and police had to run Michos into the building under escort. When Michos took the stand, he told the court he'd been in love with the girl. He said he had sex with her 4 times and that it was consensual. He also said he had no financial motive and that the mother knew nothing. The court rejected the prosecutor's recommendation by 5 votes to 2. Michos was found guilty of sexual assault, CSAM, pimping and illegal possession of weapons and ammunition, and was acquitted only of human trafficking. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, plus an additional 27 years to serve 20, and fined €4,100. Of the remaining defendants, 16 clients were convicted of inappropriate acts with a minor for remuneration, with sentences ranging from 3 to 7 years. 4 who had met with her more than once received 7 years. 5 who met her once received 6. 3 who claimed they thought she was older received 5. 6 defendants were acquitted entirely. A second man, identified only as Michalis, a retired sailor, had been running his own parallel operation around the same girl, urging her to sleep with his associates for money, uploading naked photographs of her online, and promising her what he called the fat circuit, meetings with ship owners and money men, visits to yachts, appearances in films. He was sentenced to 18 years. The mother was acquitted of pimping and CSAM. The only thing she was found guilty of was misdemeanor blackmail against Michos's ex-wife, for which she received a 20-month sentence, which she had already served on remand. She was released immediately. When Michos left the courtroom, people booed, and police drove him out quickly. Of the 213 men who had responded to his ads, most were never charged. Their names were never made public. In a second trial in November 2024, a further 11 men were tried. 5 were sentenced to jail terms of 4 to 12 years and fined €10,000 each. 6 received suspended sentences pending appeal. As for the girl, her lawyer told reporters after the verdict that she now lives with her aunt, is doing well in school, and has told people close to her that she wants to become a prosecutor. Thessaloniki is Greece's second largest city, a port city in the north of the country with a population of just over 1 million people. But somewhere in an apartment in that city, A 21-year-old was running what the FBI would later describe as one of the most heinous child exploitation enterprises they had ever encountered. His name, at least online, was War. His real name was Leonidas Varagianis. He was 21 years old, a dual US-Greek citizen who'd been living in Thessaloniki, and he went by several names online, with War being the most well-known, but also Mercy is Weak 2, and Sinister Fuck. In December 2023, he joined a network called 764, and within a matter of months had become co-administrator of its most dangerous inner circle. I've already done a deep dive video on 764, but for those who may have never heard of the group, it's an extremist group founded in 2020 by a 15-year-old boy in Stephenville, Texas, named Bradley Cadenhead, who named it after his own area code. The Department of Justice described it as a nihilistic violent extremist network, a group whose stated goal was the destruction of civilized society with a specific focus on children. Cadenhead was arrested in 2021 and is currently serving 80 years in prison. After his arrest, a 20-year-old from High Point, North Carolina, named Prasann Nepal, known online as Trippy, took over as the network's de facto leader and spent years keeping it alive, creating new channels every time existing ones were banned from the platforms they were operating on. Varagianis was the newer arrival, but he moved quickly once he was in. The subgroup he and Nepal ran together was called 764 Inferno, by invitation only, reserved solely for the network's core members. The two of them controlled who got access, set the content expectations for new recruits, wrote the recruitment guides, and directed the network's operations across multiple jurisdictions simultaneously. Nepal from North Carolina, and Varagianis from his apartment in Thessaloniki. Getting into 764 Inferno wasn't straightforward. War and Trippy controlled who got access, and to get in, you had to produce content. But not just any content. The content they pushed for was CSAM, footage of victims self-harming, or evidence of real-world violence. The more extreme the content, the more status you had. Stop producing, and you risked being thrown out. They went after girls with depression and mental illness, girls without father figures at home, LGBTQ youth, children who were already struggling, and kids who were easier to isolate. To help others do the same, War and Trippy put together a written recruitment guide and laid out exactly how to find and groom victims. The guide told recruits to find girls with depression, to build their trust, to get explicit material, to scrape the victim's social media for family contacts to use as leverage, and then escalate via the form of blood content, which was images of self-harm, animal abuse, and inappropriate sexual acts, all branded with the names and symbols of 764, and everything was archived. Footage, images, and recordings were all compiled with gore material into what the network called law books, digital collections treated as currency, traded in encrypted vaults, and used to recruit new members and maintain status. The government confirmed at least 8 minor victims across 4 countries, all girls, ranging from 12 to 15 years old, from the US, Canada, the UK, Germany, France, and the Philippines. As for Varagianis, he was directly involved in organizing what the network called Terror Week, sharing guides on how to carry out attacks. In a Discord livestream, he showed off neo-Nazi graffiti he'd tagged across Thessaloniki and offered to produce more on request. He publicly posted a rule set banning paedophilia within the network, while privately leaving CSAM links intact, a move that was intentional to mislead anyone looking into 764. And in archived chat records there's a message attributed to War about a victim, in which he wrote, "Already got a bitch to end her own life." The ending was funny. By the time arrests finally came in, the network had gone far beyond online chat rooms and groups. A school shooting in Nashville, stabbings in Sweden, and a murder in Romania were all connected to 764. There were also other planned attacks in both the US and the UK, but they were never carried out. Nepal was arrested first. On the 22nd of April 2025, US Marshals took him into custody in High Point, North Carolina. He appeared in federal court in Guilford County, where his family, his mother, father, sister, and younger brother were all present. His sister testified that they had no idea he'd been involved with 764 and had seen no signs of it. Nepal said nothing publicly through his attorney, but in court he admitted to creating 764 and to still controlling the network at the time of his arrest. Then, a week later on the 29th of April 2025, Greek police arrested Leonidas Varagiannis in Thessaloniki following an international warrant filed by the US District Court for the District of Columbia. He appeared before an appellate prosecutor the following day and immediately denied everything. His lawyer argued that because Varagiannis had been living in Greece while being involved with 764, Greek law applied, and his extradition to the US was prohibited, and the Greek court eventually agreed, instead launching their own domestic prosecution against him under the same charges. In October 2025, Varagiannis was remanded in custody in Thessaloniki and charged under Greek law with participation in a criminal organization, causing harm to vulnerable individuals, CSAM, and revenge pornography. A second defendant, an 18-year-old described as an accomplice who was reportedly a minor at the time of the offences, was also charged alongside him. Varagiannis denied everything in his testimony, telling the court he merely accessed an app from the co-defendant's computer and had no involvement with the organisation, though the evidence was undeniable, and the examining judge and prosecutors unanimously agreed. He currently remains in a pre-trial detention centre in Thessaloniki. If you want the full story of 764, how it started, how far it spread, and how many people it's destroyed, I've covered it in depth already on the channel. The link is in the description below, as well as the pinned comment.